Good morning, and to all our brothers and sisters in Trinidad and Tobago and Sitaram. And let me say a welcome to our regular Thursday morning program on addiction and recovery. And let me remind our listeners, both in Trinidad and Tobago and worldwide, that this program is online. It is also going to be posted on YouTube at the end of the program. So those of you who are unable to listen to the whole program this morning, you can tune in at your convenience. And it's also repeated at 10 p.m. tonight on the same platform and on radio and TV Jagriti. Today, we are very, very fortunate in Trinidad and Tobago. You're seeing a handsome gentleman sitting next to me on screen as well. And this is Mr. John Tindall. He's from Liverpool, Brixton in England. At least that's where he used to live when I first met him. Way back in 1992, he had come to Trinidad to teach a session on acupuncture. He's an acupuncturist. He's also a physiotherapist, has worked extensively with the National Health Service in England. And I'm aware over the last 32 years, he has been doing a lot of work in Europe, South America. He's my mentor. He's the person who started me on this journey to learn acupuncture. And I feel very privileged to have him on our program this morning. I want to let our listeners know that you all are fully aware this is an interactive program. The numbers are on your screen, 663-2335, 663-1027, and you may call at any time in the program if you have a question for me or John. And I will now go over to John and ask him to speak a little bit about his own experience with acupuncture and what he's doing. John, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for inviting me to your program. Yeah, and it's fantastic to see you again as well after all these years. Haven't been back in Trinidad for 25 years. So my experience of developing acupuncture in the National Health Service in England, in London, Brixton, and then extending it throughout the country really was initially about dealing or helping people with mental health, drug and alcohol related problems, and post-traumatic stress disorders. That led us into working into many different alcohol and drug services, also prisons, domestic violence units, and then subsequently developing that service for the extended problems of addiction like HIV, AIDS, hepatitis C, and developing what became a pioneering clinic, the Gateway Clinic, from 1989 to the year 2000. After 2000, I actually left the NHS and started developing my own acupuncture college, teaching people a design of acupuncture that we've put together called microsystems, a bit like the ear acupuncture, but extending it to the face, scalp, hand, and foot, so that anybody could learn it quite quickly and begin to use it in their communities, helping people to relax to start with, and then to improve all the different levels of their health, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and linking that in with other programs of either counseling or 12 steps or other rehabilitation. Then in recent years, with this UN clinic that I set up and the UN College of Acupuncture, really developing services for clients with cancer, leukemia, autoimmune disease, post-viral syndrome, chronic fatigue. So we were very busy during COVID developing herbal medicine programs for helping people with COVID and long COVID, and also acupuncture services for recovery. And all this exciting work over a long time has taken me to work with lots of indigenous tribes, indigenous peoples, from Lakota Indians in North America to indigenous people in the Andes and the Amazon in Ecuador and Peru. And since 2016, setting up an NGO, which is called Pino Oni, which means messenger of God in Shipibo culture. And this is a school project for, you could say there were initially homeless kids and orphans, and then it's basically any young people that really don't have the finances to be able to develop any of this. So it's a fantastic school project where they learn acupuncture and qigong, meditation, organic gardening, and they start learning these things from when they're young. So the youngest students we've had learning acupuncture have been 8 years old. Quite amazing. And then now, literally 8 years later, we have a superb land preservation project, which the children run, which is preserving turtles and plants and capybara, many other things, and developing organic fish ponds so that we can start to tackle the key health issues, that being alcoholism and also diabetes. So without improving diet and exercise, we're not going to get very far. Then my friends here in Trinidad, who I've known for such a long time, asked me if I would come back to teach Qigong. So friends of mine, Nicholas Penko and Faye, they organized a workshop which will be taking place this weekend up on the Timberline Road on the way to Maracas. And this style of Qigong is quite a unique style. There are thousands of styles of Qigong. Qigong is a practice that evolved from Buddhist monks and Taoist masters. Basically, from long sitting, they became quite physically weak in their meditation. So they started developing Qigong and also developing Kung Fu and things like this to improve their physical body. So the styles of Qigong, there are those related to martial arts, and there are those that are related to healing and more spiritual practices. So the practice that I have been working with since 1990 was developed by a Chinese master called Xing Wang, and his style is called Hua Gong. Hua means a flower. It also means to transform. So in Hua Gong, anybody of any age could do it. It could be done sitting down, standing, or lying. So even when I've got clients that are very ill, we can still find practices within Hua Gong that make it possible. And it can be integrated alongside acupuncture or any other program. Hua Gong has a style where there are set forms which are about daily practice for relaxation and daily attunement of the mind, body, and spirit. And then there are longer practices which are a concept. If I said that my hands moving apart and coming together is literally a flower opening and closing, or my mind expanding and contracting, or the universe expanding, contracting, then the person simply keeps following that. And as they follow it and it begins to unfold, they make their own spontaneous movements. So it's beautiful to see people start by having the same movement. And then after half an hour, they're all completely doing their own movements. Some of them land up in a very still space, quite naturally, simply because the body would want to come to rest at some point, and then they'll move again. So it's a practice where there is no right nor wrong. There's simply the process of tuning in and connecting to that energy, and then fine-tuning that connection.
So what do you
when I do my
John?
workshops, as many people who practice Hua Gong do, we actually set a purpose so that collectively we are practicing energy work together, which is then literally like a family constellation. And the vibration of that goes out to all of our brothers and sisters, all of humanity.
I know
for this weekend,
for
this weekend, the purpose will be the origin of being.
All right. I know I may not be able to go on Saturday, but of course I'm going to try to make it on Sunday. But coming back to the acupuncture, the first aspect of acupuncture that I was introduced was to auricular acupuncture. That is 5 points on the ears. And that was way back in 1992, 93. And I had the good fortune of being able to introduce it where I worked at the Substance Abuse Prevention and Treatment Center. I was also able to go and see what was happening at the Lincoln Hospital in South Bronx with Dr. Smith and they, who had introduced the use of it there. Would you want to talk a little bit about auricular acupuncture as it relates to recovery from drug addiction, John?
Yep, certainly. So firstly, for all the viewers, we're talking about putting needles in the external surface of the ear. The concept is that this is a model of a baby upside down. So the earlobe is the baby's head. Then we have the chest cavity, abdominal cavity, and spine. So the ear acupuncture was first used in addiction back in 1965, 67 by Professor Wen in Hong Kong.
Right.
And it was picked up by Dr. Michael Smith in 1975. And by 1985 had developed a program called NADA, which stands for the National Acupuncture Detox Association. So the first thing that ear acupuncture is important for is creating a window space of relaxation. So in the confusions and conundrums of life, it's really important to have those window spaces where people can literally land, feel that sense of autonomy, and begin to make really conscious decisions to actually come out of a reactive phase and into response. In recent years of using ear acupuncture in addiction and mental health, the absolute principal part of it from a Western science point of view is about the vagus nerve. So in the ear, there are branches of the vagus nerve which actually sit under all the acupuncture points that we use in the NADA protocol, the National Acupuncture Detox Association protocol. There's 5 points that you mentioned. And these points will then start to restore internal organ function, kidneys, liver, heart, the nervous system. When we start to bring our body back into that homeostatic balance, because the body's always wanting that balance, it can actually go through its natural process of the detoxification. And this is not just to do with drug and alcohol addiction, but also all the medication that's used in chemotherapy, for instance.
Right.
So it's actually not drug specific. The same points that are used in the ear that you and I have used for the last 30 years will work irrespective of the drug to help the body to clean it from the system and also help the nervous system clean it from the system. So it's not just about the physiology of organs, it's about how it affects us on all dimensions. Then once we see that the person is beginning to go through that process, able to have more conscious connection with their own cognitive functioning, then you see people's sleep improve, their appetite improve, their digestion improve, and everybody around them notices their communication skills start to change. So it's something over 35 years of practice of watching this in so many different countries, so many different cultures. It crosses all cultural boundaries. It crosses all personal boundaries. It's simply something that physiologically happens when we receive acupuncture.
It is interesting you saying that, because I worked at Cora Hospital, which is a substance abuse clinic, John, but I have also worked at St. Anne's Hospital, which is a mental health institution. And, mentally ill, they're very often you have people who have, they are codependent. They are mentally ill, but they also have become dependent on drugs. And not only illicit drugs, but they have become dependent on psychoactive substances, because of chemotherapy. And of course, these people can't be reached with counseling and the psychotherapy and all of that. But I have seen them relate very, very satisfactorily using acupuncture, because acupuncture, whether you believe in it or not, it has nothing to do with your belief system. Once the needles are put in the correct place, the treatment happens. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, the really interesting about acupuncture is that even if a person is in coma, and unconscious, either as a matter of overdose or a head injury, acupuncture activates parts of their brain and they start to come out of coma. So acupuncture has been used for people who are both conscious and unconscious, which demonstrates that it's not about belief system or placebo if the patient is unconscious. One of the things that I've noticed in working with refugees after war zones or after huge ecological disasters, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and people are absolutely in shock. They cannot do any talking therapies because they're in shock. And so acupuncture has this very unique capacity of restoring the person back to their own inner space, to their center, to their spirit connection. And then they start to recover from there. And obviously, talking therapies can come later down the line once the person is able to do that. So, having worked in mental health units in the UK, Russia, many countries, where some of these clients had actually been in a mental health unit for 20, 30 years and really didn't take part in anything. They weren't prepared to be a part of any program. They're in their own bubble, as it were. And yet just encouraging them to start with one acupuncture needle in their ear and gradually be patient and patient and patient and just caring for them and offering it to them. Eventually they take all of it and then they become a complete advocate. Yeah, I must have my acupuncture if I'm going to function today. They're making the statement. And then after years of practicing with the ear acupuncture in mental health, doctors and nurses then realizing actually this is a great tool. It helps us. So a wonderful paper that Dr. Michael Smith wrote, which was called Acupuncture Helps Programs More Than Clients. And it talks about the psychosocial effect, particularly of group acupuncture, because what you have done and I've done for the last 35 years or more is a group practice. That's not a regular thing you see in, say, private practice. But group practice acupuncture brings people together to do something collectively about their own health. And you can have any member of the family present. Nobody needs to get embarrassed about needing to talk about something or share something. And what's unique is once they start to relax, as you, I'm sure, have had that experience too, people end up sharing.
Let me share this little story with you. It's not a story, it's something that happened after you left in 1992. I went to the clinic in the South Bronx. I wanted to convince myself that this thing really works. And I remember speaking with Dr. Mike Smith, and I was asking a whole barrage of questions. And he asked me, are you a social worker or are you a policeman? You know, he said, look, go downstairs and speak to the patients, ask them. Yeah, and I went downstairs of the clinic, and there were about 100 people sitting there who had had methadone addiction and all of that. And every one of them swore that this acupuncture was really saving their life. So I came back with that passion and I sought to introduce it at the substance abuse clinic at Cora Hospital. But boy, I met with so much resistance, especially from people in the caring profession themselves. I met with so much resistance. But then eventually I was able to persuade, and I'm saying this because you say it's a group activity. I had all the patients from the ward come and sit in the waiting area where we have our group activities. And one of them agreed to try the acupuncture. And of course, I did the Shenmen, that first point. And everybody was gawking around him, and asking him, is it painful? And he said, no, it feels good. And they could see that he was physically becoming relaxed, almost into a meditative state. And so another one decided to try it. And that day, about 6 patients had it. And before the end of the week, all the patients were having it. The staff was having it. Visitors and some of their families were agreeing to have it as well. So I'm saying, and this thing is so cost effective, and that was my first experience at Cora. It is not to say, though, it still has not caught on in some areas here, because there's still, I don't know, in our society here, John, what happens is, especially the upper and middle class people, if they have a problem, they go to the psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist, I mean, what they have in their toolbox is chemotherapy. So a lot of people get started off, even young people, teenagers and so on, with behavioral problems or insomnia or things like that, get put on psychotropic drugs. And I am seeing a lot of that in my practice, where people have now become dependent on the barbiturates, the sleeping pills, the sedatives, and the anti-anxiolytics. And now that has become a problem. I even have quite a few professionals, doctors as well, who became dependent on these things, not illicit drugs, but drugs that were prescribed. And now they are having a hell of a time. And acupuncture, I have found being very useful in helping to wean them off those drugs. What would be your comments on that? I would like to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, they've been over the years of developing the acupuncture for community services, also private clinics. I've seen acupuncture work with all Western medically prescribed drugs. The good thing about acupuncture is it's about restoring the balance within oneself. So it's about that space inside the body where you draw the body's attention back to what it needs to deal with. So it's a very here and now present thing. Even though people may have lots of things from the past that cause their problem, it's dealing with here and now. And so people get that immediate connection to, wow, I feel relaxed. I don't know why I feel relaxed. And many clients will say, what was in that needle?
Yeah.
Because their expectation is something good has to come from outside. But actually, really, it's an inside job. So the beauty I like about acupuncture is all the good things that people feel is because their body works. There's nothing in an acupuncture needle. In fact, technically, it's not even a needle. It's a wire that's round at the end, but it's very fine. So all the good things that people start to feel, that sense of self-worth, confidence, being able to be present, even though their problems haven't changed, they can be present, they can be in the here and now and start to step out of reaction and come into responding and putting real attention to what they need to do in their life. And that happens organically. It's a really good restoring point. And any class, any culture, it doesn't matter whether somebody's a doctor, a consultant, or they work manually in the fields, everybody can benefit. And also, as we know, addiction affects all layers of society. And people aren't just addicted to drugs and alcohol. There's money, sex, power, all sorts. So once we really keep using the acupuncture, we can see people really, really grow and they move forward in the artistry of life, which is really important in terms of then having a really valuable and meaningful life. So I've had many professional people who had addictions to doctor prescribed drugs who, as they went along, the acupuncture literally changed their life. They will even say, that's really, really changed my life. It's made me really have the space and time within myself to look at myself, to look at where I want my life to go. And therefore it becomes more meaningful and more valuable.
Yeah, because when I started my practice way back in 1992 here, I also have a private practice. I started seeing a lot of women who were going through menopause and they did not want to take the hormone replacement because, it is associated with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had very good, in fact, when I did my training with you, I didn't know we could use the same thing to treat people who were hormonally imbalanced. It didn't occur to me then, but I've seen so much good results with people going through menopause. I've also seen a lot of people who have had, well, of course, insomnia, and even for people who want to lose weight. I know that is where it started in Hong Kong as well. That was one of the protocols it was used for. And I know that it is having an effect with patients who have suffered stroke as well. Acupuncture has been found to be very, very useful. Now, in my practice, John, I don't only do the acupuncture, I'm also professionally trained as a counselor, a psychotherapist. So I treat with problems from a biopsychosocial, spiritual perspective. But acupuncture I have found to be, I mean, I've worked out in the field there, in the substance abuse clinics, in the mental hospitals in Trinidad, but I have found that acupuncture is such a useful adjunct to treatment. It complements whatever practices we do. And I know that would have been, well, I mean, you are more experienced in that field. You would have seen a lot of what I'm talking about. You care to comment on that?
Yeah, in my travels over the last 35, 40 years of teaching acupuncture all over the world, the beauty of it is the type of acupuncture we are talking about is something that can be learned very quickly. It's very simple, it's safe, it's efficient, it's effective, and you can set it up in any environment. If you were to see the video of our first workshop in the jungle for the children in the jungle in Peru, there's chickens everywhere, and we're out in the bush, and the people are there, and the youngsters are. This is the first time they've ever come across acupuncture, and these youngsters are learning how to put needles in each other, then smiling, and then the community is coming, and we're just in basically 4 posts and some bamboo above it to just give us shelter, and it's in the middle of the jungle. So having seen these things set up in really remote places where communities might be devastated by natural disasters or by alcoholism or by diabetes, and then seeing the positive effects, and then looking also at hospital research that's been done. There's a really beautiful paper which you can get to on the NADA GB website, which is about a 15-year research of using just the NADA protocol to deal with the side effects of chemotherapy for women with breast cancer. There's many papers showing how it's been used with autism and improving cognitive functioning and quality of life, how it's been used for women with menopause, how it's been used for epilepsy, how it's been used for attention deficit disorder with children. So there's lots of diversity. So in fact, one of our next purpose in our annual conference for NADA in UK is going to be Unimagined Bridges.
Okay.
Where we've actually started to develop it, where we never imagined that was going to happen. So because of the war in the Ukraine and in Russia, we've had many Ukrainian refugees and other refugees from other parts of the world coming to learn acupuncture to take it back to their people to help them deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. And when we think about it, in any community, whether it's a high class, middle class, or whether it's working class, there's always stress. Who doesn't have stress? And really, stress is not so much the issue, it's how we either react to it or respond to it. So we talk about mindfulness. Yeah. Mindfulness, prayer, meditation takes you to that space of being able to respond rather than react. Yeah? And this is also where acupuncture has a key link with all of those type of practices. I often think of acupuncture is like Qigong with needles. Okay. And then Qigong is like acupuncture without needles. And then meditation the same. So when we look at those concepts of intention, the intention behind prayer, the intention behind meditation, the intention behind yoga, behind Qigong, behind Tai Chi, yes, behind just being a good human being, then that's actually the message that comes with acupuncture. My teacher in China, Master Wu Woping, he would always say that 80% of acupuncture is about your intention, because you are a human being that is linked with a higher power, with the universe, with God. And so it's just the same message.
Just let me remind our listeners, if anyone has any calls, of course, they can come through it. They can call at 663-2335 or 663-1027. I know acupuncture is not the regular talk on this program. You know, we are very fortunate because John is here. That it's a rare opportunity to have you on the program, John.
Thank
But you
you.
know, I have so many stories that I've come across over the years that I have been practicing. I remember Mike Smith sending someone from Guyana who was passing through Trinidad on her way home to Guyana, and she had been to the clinic in South Bronx, and he told her, "Well, why don't you go and check on Mr. Dwarika? What's he doing in Trinidad?" And she came to the center at Cora. I hadn't gotten to work yet that morning, and she saw the acupuncture being done. My staff was doing it to the patients, and she sat and she had a treatment. And then afterwards, when she met me, we had a long talk, and you know, she was looking at how she could get this thing introduced in Guyana because they did not have treatment facilities there. But then about 3 days later, she calls me. She was still in Trinidad, staying in Port of Spain at Cascade, a hotel there. And she said, "But Mr. Dwarika, I have suffered with migraine headaches for the last 19 years. And I couldn't, and you know, that day I was supposed to have the headache because when you have had it for so long, you know when it's going to come out." And she said the only thing different she had had was acupuncture. But she couldn't believe the acupuncture would have caused such a big change. So she waited 3 days. Then she would call me and she said she still had not had the migraine attack as yet. So eventually she came and did the training. I was training the staff at New Life Ministries, and she came and joined the group to do the training. And actually, our Professor Bobran, who has passed on now, who was famous in this hemisphere in the field of substance abuse and drug addiction, Professor Michael Bobran, he came and he handed out the certificates at Mount St. Benedict at the graduation for these people. And like you said, it's a very short program. It's a very, I mean, it's compact. You have to have an understanding of, well, the nature of drug addiction and all of that, but you don't need to have any previous training or degrees or anything like that. You just have to have a passion to work with people, and you learn the needling skills. You understand the principles behind it, and you go. Because when I was at core and I met with all this resistance, you know, John, I had decided to get a shed, just a shed at the junction of the Coral Royal Road. And I told our patients, any of you who stay sober for 2 years, I was going to train you to do acupuncture. And we were going to do a clinic down near the main road without any infrastructure, just a shed. You come and sit, you have the needle for 20 minutes, and I saw that happening at the clinic in the Bronx. People were just coming in, having the treatment for 20 minutes, and then they're going off to work, and they would go to the AA and NA meeting in the evening, and they were doing very well. So this, I can't understand. It's so cost effective, it's so practical, it's so applicable, you know, don't need any big set of logistics. And we have people like you coming and willing to train us. You understand? So that sometimes one wonders why the powers that be. But I know that a lot of the treatment facilities now in North America, in Europe, in South America are using the NADA protocol.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Yeah, there are millions of NADA protocol, that's the ear acupuncture protocol, practitioners all over the world. Mike Smith, if you took the total number of people that he have actually passed this on to, who then passed it on to somebody else, it's actually millions of people. Myself, I've been personally responsible for training more than 30,000 people in different countries. And then those people are giving service to others, and then they become trainers, and then they train others. So my thing is, whenever I go to places, whether here in Trinidad or Ecuador and Peru, is to train people to actually train others so that everybody can fish for themselves. It's not about me doing that. It needs to be about helping other people access that skill. And really, there's only four main tenets, which is about health and safety, handling clients appropriately, needle technique, and the point location. We're not talking about complete body acupuncture. We're talking about a micro system. Whether we extend the points from NADA or whether we add on other points, it's all the same technique and the same level of healthcare and safety. So these things become really, really accessible to everybody. That's the most important thing, that it's accessible, and that anybody, whether they have money or they don't have money, can learn it and can also receive it. It's not difficult to set up charities or NGOs that then can collect money from people, and all the donations go towards a collective common purpose, which is that service. And for me, it's about service. And what better purpose in life is that, no? Then what I've noticed over the years, in coming back to your point, is many people may have drug and alcohol problems, but also have secondary health issues. And then they get very concerned or fearful about taking medication, particularly anything that's a pain management or has some psycho.
I think we have a call coming in, John.
Okay.
Let's take this call.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Namaste to the guests you have there. What a great program this morning about acupuncture, because I know about it. I take part in it, and I could tell you how great it is. I would like to know. Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you.
You hearing me?
Yes, yes.
Good morning.
Yes, yes.
Good morning. Namaste to the guests.
Yes, we're hearing you. Go ahead, talk on the phone.
All right. Yeah, I would like to say how I know about acupuncture and how great, what a great program this morning on acupuncture, because a lot of people are supposed to know about this. It's a very good thing. And one more thing I would like to find out from Mr. Dwarka, if I could send birthday greetings to my son.
Okay.
Hello?
All right. Yes, yes, you may do that.
Can I wish Devanan a lot, many more birthdays to come. Saturday is his birthday, and I take the privilege on your program to wish him all the best.
And we wish him happy birthday too.
I know. Well, it's so nice. You have a great guest with you there, who is both of you all conversing about his acupuncture.
Okay. All right. Thank you for calling. Yes, John. A lot of people here have had the exposure to acupuncture in Trinidad, and I know now there are other uses, but we are coming up on time, and I want you to tell us a little bit about this program you're doing this weekend, John. Where it is, how you can get there, and if there are any costs attached and so on.
Yeah, the Qigong workshop is at what used to be the Timberline Hotel on Timberline Road at the Maracas Lookout.
Yeah.
It's on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday is 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday is 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to be practicing a style of Qigong called Hua Gong, and we will go through a very thorough guidance in that on how to commence the practice and then how to continue the practice. Whenever I do my workshops, I like to have a collective purpose, which I mentioned at the beginning of the program, which this time will be the origin of being. So everybody can come for their own individual reasons why they're there. Maybe people just want to dip their toe in, or maybe they want to do the whole thing. If you can't do both days, you could do one day, you could do half a day, or one session. Each session will be about 2 hours long.
Any preparation in coming? Do you have to dress a particular way or anything?
Just come in loose.
We have a call, John. Let's take a call.
Yep.
Oh, the person hung up. Yeah, continue what you were saying.
Yeah, so loose fitting clothing is ideal, but just some clothing that you're comfortable with and that you feel that you can move easily. The exercises can be done by anybody of any age group, so that you don't have to be some super athletic young person.
Right.
You can be of any age. If you're not able to stand, you can do the practice sitting or even lying down. And we'll go gently through the practice. The people organizing it set a cost of 800 TT per day or 1500 to do the weekend. But if people want to just come and dip their toe in to have an experience, we can come up with something that's accessible and cost effective for everybody. Also, the proceeds of all of this workshop will be going to the NGO in Peru to help the kids and youngsters out there continue to develop the acupuncture and preservation project. All of my work with my college and my Qigong retreats, the finances go to this charity project, not to myself.
So lunch would be provided, available on site?
Yeah, lunch will be provided and beverages and so on. And that will be available to everybody. That's part of the program. And obviously I will be there with my acupuncture needles as well. So if there's space in the breaks, there's usually 2 hours of practice, 2 hour break, 2 hours of practice, 2 hour break. And so for me, I'm in the break period. If people want to ask me questions or they want to experience acupuncture, or some of my friends like yourself that I haven't seen for 25 years, who chat, do some treatments for each other, and it would just be a beautiful, energetic party. It'll be good. My partner, Alice, is with me. She's an amazing acupuncturist. She's really brilliant at facial acupuncture, which is used for cosmetic and facial rejuvenation. So I'm sure there will be plenty of both men and women who would like to look a little bit younger. Acupuncture is very good at that. Would like to say also, for acupuncture, my experience of acupuncture in Trinidad has always been really super well received. Partly, I think, because you've got such a diverse population: East Indian people, African people, Chinese people. We look at the origins of acupuncture. You can date that back to 5,000 years in China, but you can date it back to 7,000 years in India. And the
That's
earliest,
very interesting.
Yeah. When in my travels through the Amazon and the Andes, I came across healers, men and women, who are actually practicing acupuncture, but don't even call it acupuncture. They use thorns of plants. They have a whole system of interesting use of points. A lot of it is about opening the person's spirit and cleaning their body. A lot like what would be, let's say, practice of herbal medicine in the bush or in the jungle, wherever.
All right.
I think in this country, great possibility for acupuncture.
All right, John. So I know we are running out of time. So let me just say thank you very much. Sorry. And for being on the program, and looking forward to seeing you on Sunday. I'm definitely going to be there. So I want to thank the staff at Jagriti as well for having us and for providing those beautiful videos at the lead up to the program. I want to thank all of you who have joined us this morning and who have called. Sorry, but I'm just recovering myself from the Sahara dust here. So maybe I will have a treatment on Sunday. So I want to thank you again, and thank you, John, for appearing with us and for sharing your thoughts and your vast amount of wisdom. And I know those who are there on Saturday and Sunday are going to definitely benefit from your experience. So thank you again. And I want to thank Francis and all those people in the back room there who have been operating and putting this thing together. Thank you all again, and see you all next week, Thursday.